What's up, y'all? This is Blueprint. You're reading, you're watching, you're listening to GermanRhymes.de. The one on the tour bus is not as bad. And then, we're not allowed to poop on a tour bus. So I haven't had to worry about that yet. I use as far as the music, I composed everything on it. I wrote everything on it. There's no samples on it. All the singing on it, except like one thing, is all me. I listen to a lot of like early electronic work, like Kraftwerk, Daft Punk, a lot of '80s music. A lot of studied a lot of music just in terms of songwriting and composition, bridge, chorus, those kind of song structure things. In terms of what the album is, it's a little bit of everything. It's got points where it's got guitar and it's real beautiful and pretty, like Welcome Home, and then it's got things like My Culture, where it sounds evil and electronic, and then it switches to like a more kind of dance pulse during the chorus. But the content is very heavy. I tried to do something on the record where songs may sound like something, but they may be about something else. So I may choose a song like Wanna Be Like You, which sounds like an 80s pop song, but it's really about people being materialistic and superficial. But I chose to kind of wrap it in a packaging that maybe disarms the listener to where they think, oh, I'm just listening to this happy song about being like somebody, but then you listen to the song, it's really saying, hey, you looking at this, you trying to be like him, or you who is unhappy with your life, you should worry about your life more and get your stuff together, because their life is no more important than yours. That's what I tried to do. Kind of like the Trojan horse analogy, when they sent the Trojan horse in and it looked like a gift, and then all these soldiers hopped out and it was something different. I try to do that with music sometimes, where it will be presented as one thing, but when you listen to the actual words of it, it's something different.
Keep tripping, I'ma turn it up louder. Don't give a damn about your quiet or your peace. The only time I turn it down is when I see police.
Yeah, I expected everything. I expected criticism. I expected accolades. I expected everything. I think the beat choices, the main criticisms I've got from those are from people who wanted me to do a record like 1988. They wanted a more traditional boom bap record. Some of these people are not necessarily people whose listening preferences are as wide as mine, or as wide as a lot of other listeners. I believe that we live in the iPod era, so everyone has access to all kinds of music, and then the listener's palette, the range of what they listen to is wider now than ever, which is why I felt it was an important time to do a record like that, where all these things are brung together into a hip-hop record. I realized early going in that there are going to be some people who identify me with the 1988 sound. And if I don't do the 1988 sound, then they are going to feel alienated or distanced, or being like, what is this? It's not what I'm used to hearing. But the thing about the 1988 sound is, when I put out 1988, that was before anybody was doing 1988 again. Years later, and you look at like the Cool Kids and all these other guys are carrying pages and are dressing like they're from the 80s, and everybody's reviving the 80s and 80s hip hop. But I did that first, before all of those guys did. And then I left it alone and went on to something different. And I think it'll be the same thing this time around, where I'm slightly ahead of what people are going to do. But I bet you that there are going to be a lot of albums like Adventures in Counterculture coming after it. And then maybe then it will make sense. But I expect to be criticized because I'm doing not what people expect me to do, and because no one is doing what I'm doing. As far as autotune goes, like, to me, having rules in hip hop is kind of something that I've tried to not do. You know, like when I was doing 1988, there are rules for that. You have to use certain breaks. You might want to use like impeach the president. You might want to have all these things. You know, you can use this, you can dig on these kind of records. You have to use breaks. There's all sorts of rules in hip hop. So with that vision of counterculture, I chose to break every rule. I chose to say, you know what? If they're saying auto-tune is like, you can't make it sound good, I'm going to do something. I'm going to make it sound good, you know? And I think I succeeded in doing it. But there are people who automatically think because something is auto-tuned, it's bad, it's evil, it's pop, it's the devil, you know? And so my goal is to challenge those people as well, to say, is it the tool or is it the use of the tool? You know, a gun in itself is not evil. You know, people kill people. Guns don't kill people, you know? And so it's one of those things where it's like, all these things are tools at my disposal. Synthesizers, they're tools. You know, there are kids who have even went so far to say, you have a synthesizer on your album, that's not hip hop. And I say to them, well, was Planet Rock hip hop? You know, what was Africa Bambaataa playing? You know, all these guys are playing. Electronic music has been a part of hip hop since its beginning. And in fact, since the beginning of hip hop, there was much more genre crossing. What I'm doing on Adventures in Counterculture, I believe in spirit, is no different than what Africa Bambaataa and Jazzy J and all those dudes were doing when they were discovering breaks and they were playing parties and they were taking influences from everything. And as long as they could make it sound hip hop, then it was hip hop. That's what I'm doing. I'm doing it no differently. I'm still chopping up drum breaks. I'm just taking them from different sources. You know, So Alive, it's a drum break. I just chopped it up from a different source. I got a little piece from Jackson 5 in there. I got a bunch of drum rolls and it's a break. It's no different. The way I made it, but I think some people get lost because they think this is not boom bap hip hop. This is not what he's known to do. But to me, I think being a pioneer should mean that you don't have to be safe. I feel like if I were to make another record like 1988 or the things that people expect me to do, then I would be kind of selling out when I knew I could achieve more, you know.
Okay. C-print Pollyan, 3-card Mollying, riding in an old car across the Metropolitan, probably in a hot broad face, straight hollering. Every time he make a move, y'all wanna follow him. Haters say they wanna do bodily harm to him. Players hold their house close cause they gon' swarm to him. That's the norm for him, they keeping it warm for him. Hit that, sit back, tip in the morning grin. Just bought a little crib, man, I ain't going nowhere. Columbus and bust till I die, I'm enjoying it.
Well, I didn't go into this album with a goal for sales. I went into this album, number one, I looked at it like, because it had been 6 years in between solo albums for me, that my number one goal is to, well, I have to acknowledge that a lot of people who were part of my fan base may not even be buying records anymore, and who were buying, you know, the first Soul Position records and 8 Million Stories and things of that nature. They may not even be active anymore. So I had to acknowledge that going in. Two, I had to think about like where I wanted to go for the next 5 to 7 years, and when I put it in those terms, I came to the conclusion that I had to kind of make a move towards what I really wanted to do and change the perception of who I am from just being a rapper to being a complete artist. And so the perception that I've seen, even in the criticism, even in, you know, the people who praise it the highest, the way people talk about me now has completely changed. And that to me is successful. I have not looked at any of my sales numbers. I try not to look at them this time around because doing the album, I didn't want to do it for that. I wanted to do it for me and what I had to get out and what I wanted to prove I could do. And so sales to me would kind of taint that process. To me, it's about perception. You know, and this may not even be known until I put out my next record, but I know for a fact that I have picked up people who otherwise would not have listened to me. I knew that I could pick up the hip hop kids, but there are people who come to the Rhymesayers shows, and the Rhymesayers fan base, particularly in the States, is not a quote unquote hip hop fan base. You know, like sadly enough, many of those kids may not even know who Gangstar is. They, like, you know, so those kids hearing me for the first time is mind blowing. They're like, look at this guy who's summarizing everything that we love and listen to in hip hop. You know, hip hop, indie rock, you know, some electronic, some of this. It's everything, but it's still conscious and the message is there. So to those kids, they love it because they don't have the baggage of what Blueprint used to be, you know. The main thing I'm trying to do now is make sure that I don't have any longer breaks like last time, where it was, 5 years in between since the last solo position, 6 years in between, my last solo album. So I haven't stopped doing music, and I have like an album that should hopefully be done by, I think, February or March. And then I hope to get that record out next year, just like a strong follow-up to Adventures in Counterculture. I have another project I'm working on that I want to be like a free project that I would like to put out before then, because I have so much music that I've done in the last year and a half since turning in Adventures in Counterculture. And then I don't know, I'm going to see if I can try to schedule a soul position with RJ, if he's, if his schedule permits. And then if that, I have some other things I'm working on. I got this project I'm working on with Aesop Rock, with him doing some production and me doing like some storytelling stuff, but it's not done yet. But I'm not sure what's going to be released on Waitlist. I have some instrumental stuff I'm going to probably put out on Waitlist, definitely. And then we do have like 2 Greenhouse projects that'll probably come out in a couple months with me and Logic. I think the reason they're successful, one reason I think is because all the artists talk about things that are relatable, that people can relate to. I think that's one thing. I think they have a philosophy in terms of the artists that they choose. They would rather take a chance with a unique artist than roll with an artist who has something that is current right now. Because like they don't think in terms of, okay, who's the artist who's going to be hot for the next year. They think of artists who are going to have 10, 15-year careers, who can develop their sound and keep producing content that will make them one of a kind in their field. And I think that's one of the strongest suits of Rhymesayers. Every artist that is on Rhymesayers that is active are people who no one sounds like them, and they foster that and they build that and they encourage that individuality. When I was starting on Adventures in Counterculture, I had another album that sounded like a traditional hip hop album where I was trying to recreate Enter the 36 Chambers and Supreme Clientele. I was like, okay, I did 88, now I'm gonna go up to like 95, and I'm gonna do 1995. And then it dawned on me that even if I would do that and it would be successful, I would never eclipse the originals. I would never have that spot in someone's heart as long as I was influenced, if I was exercising my influences that way. And I was doing Adventures in Counterculture at the same time, just stuff I was playing around with, and I let them hear it. And they were crazy about it. And they said, and if this is the direction you want to go, you should go this direction 110% and not even play around, because you doing this, even if it doesn't catch on at first, it will catch on, and you will be the first person doing this because you have a unique set of skills. I can rap, I produce, I can, sing. All these things that I have makes me someone who is uniquely talented to do records like that. And so I should pursue that instead of like regurgitating my influences. And they encouraged that, which a lot of labels would have said, nah, 1988 was so successful, why would you not want to do that again? Why don't you do something else? Why don't you do more funny shit, more Big Girls Need Love Too, all these silly songs, Neighborhood Weed Man, all these songs that I realize many people would want me to continue to make, they're thinking, what is the future? What are you really? What is really your artistic calling? And you are much more interesting and one of a kind when you do this. And so they just push me in that direction. I think that's why they are a unique label. Another reason they're a unique label is because it's more of a family label than any other label out there. You know, I've known these guys since 1998, you know, and our friendships go way back to whereas there are new guys, and then the new guys, they come along and we treat them just the same, to where it's not like a weird thing. Like we all hang out, we're all friends, and we have a great rapport.
Overseas, rocking ill styles off the top, you can't believe. It's me, Ali Slug, evidence agrees. Never man Buddha, you know the judo is here. Catch this, just fear. What I'm rocking with, soul position, atmosphere. Rhyme singers, entertainment, you better play it. Number one, you'll see your beat it, don't.
Yeah, I think you do. What we do, and I think how we got our name in the United States was from just touring relentlessly, putting on great shows, and being grassroots in terms of how we treat our fans. We are the label who's known for sitting at the merch table all night, shaking everyone's hands on the way in, thanking people for coming out, signing everything until the club kicks people out. We're there. We're known for that. We haven't had a chance to do it as a unit over here as much, but that's how we relate to people. And I think you do have to have a level of humility to do that. I still prefer small crowds because I like to be able to see everyone, and then sometimes in the big rooms you can't see past the second or third row. And then, you know, the big rooms, they have the barriers, the security barriers, which pushes people far back from the stage. I never liked that because it just makes it feel distant. I like stages that are not super high off the ground. I need a stage that's, you know, where people can see it and be into it. I prefer smaller crowds, so a day like yesterday was perfect for me. Yesterday we didn't really, it was an off day, but we didn't really have a lot of time. Yesterday all I did was sat in we had the in-store, so we all hung out before then on the bus. We sat around listening to each other's music. Like if guys have new stuff they're working on, sometimes we'll share it with each other. I just sat in my bunk and read a lot yesterday. I don't drink anymore. I stopped drinking last year, so all the other guys went out drinking, and I just sat and read, you know, and wrote some rhymes. The songs are great. Yeah, all the stuff he's doing with Jake One is really special. Yeah, I was surprised he did it, but at the same time, that's the beauty of the real intimate setting. It's easier to try out new stuff in a real intimate setting than in a crowd where it's like 1,000 people there. You kind of don't want to try out something new there. In a store, when everyone is like right there, it feels more personal. So sharing new material feels so much easier there.
God forbid he really would've tried to get live. Big hit nothing but the music I'm slipping, man. Fuck hip hop. I'm easy listening. You thought it was gunshots. Yeah, y'all, come on. Yeah, y'all, come on. Yeah, y'all, come on. Come on, say it loud. Look what we handed down. Say that with me. Don't it make you proud? Look what we handed down. Come on, say it loud. Look what we handed down. Don't it make you proud? Say it. Look what we... My mama gave me Johnny Hathaway. Young, gifted, and black. I miss the positivity. I wanna bring it back. But rap nowadays is like a bunch of ignorant cats. No young, gifted, and black. Just guns, bitches, and crack. I react by turning off BET. Same goes ain't telling me what blackness is supposed to be. They used to give us world news. Now it's all videos. Replace Tavis smiling with reality.